Welcome to another episode of Natural Mojo. I'm your host, Pamela Sylvan, and it's my pleasure to be here with you for another journey of self-awareness, really, and getting through to the place you want to be in your life. Welcome. Today, I want to talk about something that I find very interesting, a topic that has playing on my mind for some time, but I didn't really know if it was the time to bring it out in such force. I'll use the word force because it is a force of nature to think in this manner, and it's not for everyone, and I'll admit that. A lot of the people, and I'll specifically say women, require a type of training and a type of understanding and a type of tone that doesn't offend. Women historically like things to be soft and accommodating and not overly aggressive. That term aggressive is something that we mostly attribute to men, not women. Women, we've grown up in that age, at least I have, not the millennials and beyond, but I have grown up in a time where girls were supposed to be nice and quiet and demure and not really be that type of human that went after things in a particular way. We were to be soft and cuddly and look good and refined. And the penchant, I like that word. I'm starting to bring out the sort of old-timey words. That penchant to go after their goals full force was not something that we normally do. We were the caregivers. We were the people that used words like love, and we like to gather and communicate in groups and share our feelings. So to be that type of person that would go after their goals full force left us looking somewhat hard and aggressive. But to me, we live in a world now where things have changed. It's not that we still can't be feminine or we can't be women and we can't be girls and still have that refined soft touch, but we also have to gather our forces within ourselves and to square our shoulders back and to get in the game and to get in there and go after the things that we want. Sitting around and doing what I call navel gazing, and I know that term will offend people because it sort of pushes against what the gurus are teaching right now, where just sit in silence. Now, first of all, I sit in silence every morning. You'll find me in silence around 4:15. I'm not knocking sitting in silence, but there's more to it. There's a reason that you're sitting in the silence. It's not just sit in the silence. Sitting in the silence is your way of signaling to you and to life that you're ready to listen. Listen to what? Listen to the instructions coming in, and then what? And then taking action. The Spirit, and I'll even say the Spirit of God, is one of action, one of dynamic action, one of get up and go. As much as we pray for things, as much as we claim things, as much as we attempt to manifest and attract, we ourselves have a huge part to play on how these things unfold. And a huge part of that is the dynamicism, I think I've said that right. It's that particular type of full-on action that gets things done. And I just wrote a post about this on Medium titled, I can't remember the title, imagine that, but I'll put it up here. But the title denotes go chasing your impossibles. Most people, when they hear that word, they think it's a signal to sit down, give up, pack up your bag, go home. No use trying to break through or to accomplish anything. And yet there are others that hear the word impossible and it becomes a challenge, a personal quest, if you will, to overcome and conquer and get on with it. And again, I'm using words that women normally don't use, like conquer. I used that on social media once and I got some feedback and maybe even a little pushback about the words because, again, we put so much importance into the tone of words that we forget why we're even using them in the first place. And I'm not using words like conquer to oppress anybody or even oppress yourself. But there is an action that is called for here where many don't seem to think that it's up to them to do. Now, I've spent most of my life being that good girl, that girl that was highly obedient and followed the rules and lived into all the narratives and scripts that we as women, especially if you belong to particular cultures, were expected to do. And I must tell you, at this stage of my life, when I look back at those times, I'm a little bit saddened by the unused energy and unused potential that I didn't pull myself up to. It was up to me. Yes, the scripts and narratives came from other people. That's how we are molded in our youth and our younger days. We get the signal and the information and the scripts and the narratives and the stories from our handlers and from our tribes and from our groups and from our peers and so forth. And we never question these things, do we? We just live into them. We follow it, believing it fully as the full-on truth without ever pushing at the edges to see if in fact they are true, or in fact if they are true for you. And when I recognized this about myself, I looked at my life and recognized that I wasn't living into my full potential. In fact, I was living a life of low-grade mediocrity. And I remember pointedly one day where I had an argument with life. I had an argument with God. I was walking and I started to feel uncomfortable. I was starting to get mad, and I just busted out in conversation out loud. I mean, there was nobody around, but even if they were, I'm not sure if I would have stopped anyway, but I had just had enough. I was sick and tired of living life in this way. There's this feeling of desperation in me, and I didn't know how to break out of it. I was just so stuck, and I just belted out my frustration into the ethers, if you will. But what my frustration stemmed from the fact that I didn't know how to break out of this. There had to be more to this thing called life. There had to be more to how I was living. How can I be here in this time, in this body, with my level of intelligence and living a life of mediocrity? So something had gone askew someplace. So I went on a journey of discovery. And, we buy into a lot of these self-help and personal development tracks that gurus put before us. Now, I just want to put things out there, and I may not find a lot of friends about this next piece of my conversation, but here it is. A lot of what you're being told and being sold are things that have worked for the person selling it, or the person amplifying it or speaking about it. It worked for them. They put together a system and they found success. You won't find the same type of success for yourself. Why? Because you have to take the time to know yourself. You are a unique individual on this planet. There is no one else that was formed in your image. You are the first of your kind and the only one of your kind. Even if you have twins, you have separate thoughts to the twin, right? You may look alike, but the thoughts and the feelings running through you are your own. They are exclusive to you. And that being the case, how can somebody possibly give me something to tell me how to fix me? They don't know my inner thoughts or my inner world or my anxieties or how they got there, or who formed me and shaped me, and the words that were used, or the thoughts that were used, or the threats that were pulled to keep me in line. Nobody knows that. The only person that knows that, and even I don't know the entirety of my particular design and makeup. A lot of it is under the level of my awareness. So it's for me to take the time to go in and discover that and to know thyself. If you followed me for any length of time, you know I talk about that a lot, about knowing thyself. It's the most important job that you will ever have in this lifetime. Many people think they know themselves, but if you were to ask them a simple question like, what do you want? They can't possibly tell you that. They go into a state of fight, flight, or freeze. And some go even further and just forget. And then they say that they know themselves. They don't. In the work that I do, where I help people excavate, I don't tell them what to think. I point them to the excavation process so they can see in their playbook and planner who they are. In order to get where you're going, you have to know where you're starting. It would be silly for an airline pilot to take off to get to a particular destination without knowing where they've started from, because they have to chart the course. The planner is the charting of your way forward, but you have to know some things about yourself. You have to know the stories that you're always streaming through your consciousness all day long. Those stories that frighten you, that keep you stuck, that keep you under your potential, what are they? Anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, most people, what they do, they push it aside or they find a way to dampen those feelings. So, more distraction, whether it be through social media or copious amounts of watching streaming channels like Netflix or drinking copious amounts of wine. I like that word copious. You probably noticed. Or anything like that to distract them away from the important work of knowing themselves. They don't want to know themselves. And some people have had incredibly traumatic childhoods where going back and knowing themselves and finding that little sliver that's keeping them back from their potential equates to self-harm. And I advocate, if you are one of those people that you find yourself in front of a professional caregiver like a therapist or counselor that can help you unpack those emotions, because you don't want to find yourself in a place that is just a little bit too dark for you, and there are people that need that kind of support. But for those of you that can handle treading through the points and places of your life, this is your real work, not your 9 to 5. This is the work of a lifetime. It's a challenge of a lifetime. This is your personal quest. This is the type of conversation and work that people like Joseph Campbell talks about, the hero of the journey. It's not about going out and finding a bucket of gold. The gold is that which is stored within you. And even though that we think that change is impossible or difficult, or going after what we want is difficult, we were seeded with a particular purpose within our body, mind, heart, and soul. And today, based on the type of person you happen to be, yes, it probably is quite impossible to get from here to there. But that's the point. This is the adventure. This is the fun. This is the Indiana Jones moment. And like Indiana Jones, to get the prize at the end, it took some doing. He did some impossible looking things, didn't he? And yes, even with the magic of Hollywood, they weren't far off on what it takes to get there. It takes work, it takes sacrifice, it takes a willingness and a commitment far beyond that which you've given your life so far. There's a best-selling author right now by the name of David Goggins, and I've listened to his story. This is why stories are so important. His story inflames me to get up and get off my behind and get going. And this young man came from nowhere. His life was basically quite tragic, based on most of our lives, I bet. But he came from an impossible situation and overcame himself. His biggest enemy was himself and the thoughts that he allowed to move through his mind all day long, which then manifested into a lifestyle that was basically killing him. So he had to get in there and do the work, and it was incredibly hard. Anytime that I feel like giving up or I start to complain about what it is I have to do, I think about David and how he was able to overcome. And this is the work that I'm doing on myself. And in this work that I do with myself, it's work that I then share with those that care to hear it. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life or what you should do. That's your job. That's your responsibility. No one else's. Not your parents, not your spouse, not your children, not your best friend. This is your responsibility. This is the power that we always talk about or read about or hear about. And time after time, we find ourselves giving it away to other people to tell us what to do. It's up to you to tell you and to inform you what you need to do. This is your life. This is about you. And it's not narcissistic or selfish to get working on yourself. What good are you to other people or to this world or to this life if you are too busy falling apart, too busy feeling sorry for yourself, too busy being victimized or feeling like a victim, too busy running around in lack and poverty, too busy doing all of these other low energy, low level things, and then trying to be of service to other people? The first job is to get yourself to a place where you can be of service and support to other people. But it takes work, it takes sacrifice. And that word sacrifice, nobody wants to hear about that. Nobody wants to give up their comfort and ease. Nobody wants to get out there and do the tough thing. Life rewards those that do the tough things, if you survive it. And I'll be quite honest about that. Not everybody does. So most people won't start. Most people will never give up who they are to go be who they want to be. Even if they're miserable, they'd rather stay in the misery because they know that misery, right? And if I'm talking to you specifically, I'm challenging you to change that thinking. I'm challenging you to design a new vision for yourself. I'm challenging you to get to work on the identity that you want to live into and flow into. You have one shot at this life. And if you're anywhere near my age, you only have so much time left. I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm tracking close to senior. I'm a senior. It's not because I have gray hair, but that's what the numbers say. I'm a senior now. But the point is, it doesn't matter how much time I have left. As long as I'm here, it's up to me. It's my job to get to work, to do the job on me. And in my doing the work on me, I'm then giving other people permission to do the work on them. If they want to follow me and watch me as I do the work, I welcome that. Again, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but on today's video, the only instruction I have is face yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, say, am I living into my full potential? And if the answer is no, then there's work to do. Okay, so I'll leave it here. This is a big topic, and it's not a comfortable one, I know, because it makes people feel upset. When I first came to the realization that I wasn't living into my full potential, I was quite upset with myself, and there were some tears. And after I calmed down, that's when I got to work, and I hope the same for you. This is a journey of a lifetime, and it's your journey. It's a personal journey. I can't live it for you. I can't make the decisions for you. I'm here to support. I'm here to share my stories. I'm here to lay down some information for you if you choose to pick and choose and use what you want. But I do advocate that you at least put together a playbook for yourself, just like professional sports teams do, so they know what moves to make. Create a playbook for yourself so you know what you're doing each and every day in your unique life, in your unique way. So follow me at PamelaSylvan.com for some more information. And together, let's take a trip of a lifetime. See you again soon. Bye-bye.